Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I know it is 2 o'clock sharp Eastern time, but we're going to give it a minute or two here. I can see everyone filing in. I know it's right after lunchtime for those in Central. Really good group today. I'm excited. Welcome. If you're joining us just now, we are giving it a couple, maybe 30 seconds to a minute to let people continue to file in. Hope everyone's having a great day. Okay. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Mike and Stephanie, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Double Efficiency, How Cavallo and EthoTech Reshape Dynamics GP Operations, sponsored by Cavallo and EthoTech. My name is Elizabeth Morse, and I'm the events manager here at Cavallo. We're super, super happy you're all joining us here this afternoon. The format for today's webinar is going to be a 45-minute presentation that includes a couple live demos, both from Cavallo and EthoTech. And then we'll end today with some time for Q&A. Speaking of Q&A, feel free to jot your questions into that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen at any point throughout this webinar, and we will do our very best to get to all of them. Lastly, just want to let you know this webinar is being recorded, so you will be able to access the recording on demand almost immediately following today's webinar. We're excited to have Mike Radin from Cavallo and Stephanie Rasmussen from EthoTech with us today. They'll provide high-level overviews of each organization and walk you through how you can optimize your business processes by working smarter, not harder. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to our presenters to introduce themselves and to kick us off.
Thanks, Elizabeth. My name is Mike Radin. I'm a senior sales engineer at Cavallo. I've been here a little over 2 years now. My background is in business intelligence and analytics. In this role, I love working with prospects and customers to understand their processes, identify pain points, and build solutions to help make them more efficient, more profitable, make their life easier. Just a little fun fact about myself. My favorite vacation is visiting national parks. I've been to 8 in the last 5 years, and my wife and I are currently planning where to go in 2024. With that, I'll turn it over to Stephanie to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie with EthoTech. I've been with EthoTech for 12 years and in the GP channel for over 20. I love helping solve client commission process issues and help bring better visibility and transparency, reliability to this vital business process. When I'm not solving those puzzles, I am an avid motorcycle passenger on my husband's bike du jour, and I'm happy to share with you my tips that I learned for packing light on a 30-day trip to Italy. So now that you've met me and Mike will talk to you a little bit more about what Cavallo does.
Yeah, so just to set the agenda for today, we'll do some company introductions. We'll do a live demo of Cavallo SalesPad and EthoTech, and then we'll have time at the end for questions and answers. For those of you in the audience who may not be as familiar with Cavallo, we were formerly known as SalesPad, and SalesPad is still the name of our Dynamics Great Plains desktop product, but the rebrand to Cavallo has given us the room to grow into new products and markets. We were founded in 2003 and just celebrated our 20th anniversary this fall. In those 20 years, we've served over 1,000 companies and 23,000 customers or users. Customer service and satisfaction is super important to us, and we're really proud of our 94% retention rate and our 96 net promoter score. In the background of this slide, you can see a lot of different logos for different customers and industries that we serve. This spoke graphic does a really good job of showing a lot of the different functions and tools that have been built out in SalesPad over the past 20 years. SalesPad helps create an optimized and centralized system on top of Dynamics Great Plains that can handle a lot of your business processes. While I'd love to talk about all of these, today's key focus is going to be on customer and order management and our workflow and automation solutions. So talking a little bit more about workflow, it's definitely one of the most powerful features in our SalesPad toolkit. It helps make organizations more efficient and profitable. Our founder, Pete, actually built SalesPad for his business. So in his own words, he could work less and make more money, which he undoubtedly accomplished. Workflow can do a lot of different things, like automating the printing of documents or sending of emails at any stage in your sales document process. It provides enhanced visibility and accountability as the result of building a workflow, routing your documents, and being able to notify team members and customers. And lastly, business rules and execution and automation allow you to automate many evaluations and tasks that might normally be a manual effort. Next, I just wanted to share a handful of customer quotes that help paint a picture of the value that SalesPad delivers. Jim from C. Bennett shared with us that they were able to grow 80% in 2 years without adding any additional headcount. Scaling without increasing staff members was a huge benefit to their profitability and would be to any organization. Kyle at Crown saw huge efficiency improvements in order entry, where his CSRs were able to increase the amount of orders processed by up to 67%. That kind of ties into the previous quote on how you're able to grow without adding additional headcount when you're able to process that many more orders with the use of SalesPad. And lastly, Gabe from Gecko Brands appreciates the time savings from manual processing that can be spent in other value add areas. Many things are automated in their world today, but there's still clear accountability each step of the way. I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Stephanie so she can introduce EthoTech.
Thank you very much. Since 2002, EthoTech has set the standard as the premier provider of seamlessly integrated commission solutions for Dynamics GP. We've served over 3,000 customers who tend to stick with us with a 93% renewal rate, and our oldest customers from 1998. We're able to have clients older than our company because we purchased the product from another Dynamics GP ISV years ago, and we're able to hit the ground running with their customers as well. So we have one goal, and that's to streamline your variable compensation challenges. We do this by providing, implementing, and supporting the right solutions for your company. So some of our customers, Crystal from Kawasumi, she said, hey, EthoTech saved them a ton of time. It seemed that they used to work all the time to create the data for their commissions and not able to really analyze it. And so with the commission plan, creating the data is easy. Now they can really dig into what it means for their business. Teresa Wilk gave both our product and our company a great kudos in saying, you know, it's the easiest thing, whether it's the product or the company, super easy to work with. They've never had to wait for anything, and it's just the best thing she's ever seen. Or Lorraine, short and sweet. That was a great implementation for us. She said it's the best thing since sliced bread. So whether your company produces widgets or bread or whatever, I think Commission Plan can help you. All right, so I'll let Mike get into the meat of our session today with his demo.
Yeah, so before hopping into the live action, just wanted to talk through some of the common challenges we hear and what we'll see that we can solve for in the demo. So a lot of organizations have no clear process for tracking, managing, and ensuring that all their orders are meeting acceptable margin levels, and even have visibility to know what margin levels they are achieving. Lost and delayed orders are hindering efficiency and impacting customer satisfaction. We know in today's world, customers expect their orders faster. They want updates, free shipping, a lot of expectations. And the more we can do to provide that functionality, the more satisfied our customers might be. Too much manual processing gives way to human error, inconsistencies, and can create a slower overall process, impacting the time from order to cash in your cycle. And lastly, a general lack of visibility and clear accountability throughout that order to cash cycle. So with that, I'm going to get into sharing my screen. I'll take this over and hop into the demo. Let's get a quick thumbs up or confirmation that everyone can see my screen from Elizabeth.
Yes, I can see it.
Awesome. So before jumping into too many examples, just want to cover the concept of workflows, automations, and just general visibility within SalesPad for those who might not be as familiar. In a lot of the demos I do for SalesPad, I always love to start on the Sales Monitor tab. This is going to show where all the sales documents in your process are in a particular workflow. So if I just start from the left and kind of work my way over, the Z-Ord order is my sales doc type. This is the workflow I've built for this specific document. And all of these queues or batch names are the logical steps within my process from order to cash. So from the time that order is placed to the time it's ready to invoice, what are all the evaluations, automations, and steps that I want that order to go through to make sure I'm achieving the perfect order every time? I have visibility to know exactly how many orders, what the value of those orders, and then the cost to us as a business of those orders in those different queues are. So it's a very helpful view, whether I'm a manager or I want to get down to the details of seeing orders that impact me from my customers as a sales representative manager, which is where I can hop over to the right side and see those actual details. I can click into a specific order, a specific customer. I have the ability to search if I know I'm responsible for a specific customer, Coho Wintry, and I want to look at that. I can easily filter down to that view. Or if I'm looking for Nancy's orders, I can search for that and find that very quickly. And this view is completely configurable for each user as well. So if this doesn't have the information I might be interested in personally, I can easily rearrange these columns in a fashion I like, or I can choose from a list of additional columns that are pertinent to the sales document and the customer. So just when we were talking about visibility, I'm going to go ahead and add in a couple of columns here for batch days and batch hours. If I want to make sure that things are flowing properly in my business, things aren't getting stuck, getting delayed, batch days, batch hours are two fields I can use to kind of keep an eye on that. And if I want to draw attention, we can do things like add conditional formatting. So I'm just going to add a quick highlighting cell rule, and I'll just use example if this is greater than 500. Let's go ahead and highlight that in red. That rule instantly takes effect, captures my eye, lets me know there might be a problem with these orders. They've been in the queue for quite a long time, more than we'd consider acceptable. I can follow up and make sure that the appropriate accountability is taken on those orders. And if I don't want those columns any longer, I can just go ahead and drag those out. So one of the newer tools that we've added to SalesPad that supports workflow is what we call our SalesPad Workflow Visualizer. So if I go ahead and jump into the settings for my workflow, which I'm not going to dive too much into detail on this screen, I'm just going to pull up this visualizer. It's a super helpful tool, whether you're setting up a new workflow, you're making changes, or you just want to make sure that all the evaluations you want to happen are happening. So I can see this is a big web and maybe a little confusing to look at, but I can follow along. The rectangles are the different queues in my process, and the more flag-like rectangles with the triangle cutout are the evaluations that are happening. So if I follow a perfect order along this bold black line, I can see it should go from new order. I want it to allocate. I want to send an order confirmation, print out that pick ticket, move to my ready to pick for my warehouse team, go to shipping, and then ultimately ready to invoice. But we know that orders aren't always going to follow that perfect path. They might be breaking a rule, a customer that shouldn't be allowed to place an order because they're on hold, have exceeded their credit limit. Maybe we have a different drop shipping process, a rush or priority process. You can see all of those different steps built into the workflow here. And this really helps make sure that everything's connected and working in the way you want it to. You can even take it a step further, pull the code out of here, take it to another diagramming tool, and arrange this in a way that makes more sense to you, if you so choose. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. I'm going to start jumping into some examples of how workflow and automation can help make you more efficient and profitable. So if I go ahead and do a customer search, I'm going to pick on one of my all-time favorites, Aaron Fitz Electrical here. Going to pull open that customer card, which is going to pull up all that information for the customer. I can see my open sales documents. I can look at item history. A lot of information displayed on the screen. Would be happy to dive into it more with anyone if you're not familiar. But I'm going to go ahead and create a new order for Aaron Fitz. And I have a lot of different orders for my demoing environment, but I'm going to select this Z order type. I'm going to go ahead and add an item. If I don't know the full name of that item, I can tab out. It'll get me to a sales inventory lookup where it'll find any matches on item number or description. And I wanted to add this MacBook One. On one chip here, I can see that I have plenty available in inventory. I'm going to go ahead and add that line item. I also have this visualization here to see exactly how many are available and on hand. But I wanted to go ahead and take a look at a margin evaluation rule. You can set this up to work very dynamically or a little more static. In my current environment, any order or item that is below 20% margin is flagged as unacceptable and will go to a margin review queue. But you could definitely pair that with a couple of different and statements to say if it's in this product class, if it's for this customer, you can set different appropriate margin levels using a combination of fields like that. So we can see my margins over 20% right now, so this wouldn't get flagged. So I'm going to go ahead and take the price. Maybe there's scenarios where your sales reps or customer service reps have the ability to add discounts or promos, but we still want to make sure that too much margin isn't given away, or it could just be an accidental typing here. But now we can see that margin's below 16% or 20%. So when I go ahead and hit this release button, it's going to try to forward this document in my workflow. It's going to look at the next logical queue it should go to and evaluate any of those rules. So it's going to be saving the document really quick. I didn't save that document, generating that document number, and then it should go through, evaluate my margin rule, and recognize that the order and the item level margin are not above 20%. We always love to see this moving as fast as it can when we're on a webinar doing a live demo. But now we can see that note that the item margin below 20% was evaluated true. This is now in my margin plus queue. Now from here, I might not want just anybody to be able to come out here, approve this order, and move it through. There's a couple different ways you can help restrict that. For each user you have set up in SalesPad, you can give them access or restrict access to certain queues. I don't always like to do that because I want my sales reps and my customer service reps to be able to see those orders that are in a margin review queue to understand that that margin hasn't been met. So I like to kind of build out a password protection around that. And one of the things I also like to do is send an email to my manager to let them know, hey, there's a new order in the margin review queue. Could you please go out and approve this or make changes or reject it? Send a copy of that document just so we can understand what items are on there, what price. I might add some margin detail into this document that I send, but that's going to notify, bring the accountability, make sure that we're moving as fast as we can throughout the process. So if I go ahead and come out here now, if I just try and forward this document, maybe I'm not the manager and I'm just trying to push my order through because I want to make the sale. I have a rule that requires manager approval. So it's going to stay in this queue until that manager approval is provided. So I have a checkbox here for manager approval. It's not just as simple as checking the box. If I try to check the box and hit forward, it's going to ask me for a password before it allows me to forward. If I try typing in a password that's incorrect, it's not going to let me forward. But as soon as I go ahead, enter that password correctly, you can see another smart printing job just ran. So I'm automating the printing of a pick ticket. So this can go directly to any printer on the network. So this might go down to my warehouse so that they can start doing that picking right away. And then I can see that confirmation of all the different queues that this went through. One of those being an order confirmation once the margin was approved. So now we've sent a copy of that to a customer. You can build out a formatted report, add your logo, color, really change the format of this report to your preference, but give that confirmation to the customer, let them know that their order is being processed and they can expect it in the near future. So that's a really good example of how we can handle something like margin. Again, you can make that rule more complicated than looking at a static percentage if it varies based on product class, customers, whether discounts applied or not. You can add in those complexities for that rule as well. What I want to jump into next is showing how our automation can help work, alleviate manual processes, giving you more time and ensure that your business is running smooth without having someone, for lack of a better word, babysit an order. So for the first example, I'm going to go ahead and create an order for a couple of items. I'm going to add one that I know is in stock, which is an iPhone. So I will go ahead and add the 128 gigabyte here. And I will go ahead and add a Bluetooth speaker that I know is back ordered. Right away, I can see this red exclamation mark here telling me something's going on with this order. I know that's because it's back ordered. If I go ahead and save, the whole line item will be highlighted in red. I can now see that quantity BO or back ordered is 1, that we don't have that item in stock. So when I go ahead and forward this document, my workflow is now going to recognize when it tries to go and do that allocation that that order is not, or that item rather, is not available. So it has moved to the back order queue. From here, you have plenty of options for how you might want to handle this. You might want to ship complete. That might have been requested by the customer. I actually have a checkbox for it here. If this is checked as true for this customer, if I try and split this order, it won't let me. But for this particular customer, they want what we have available as soon as we can get it out. So they're okay with, and they want us to split this order and get the iPhone to them as soon as possible, and then send that Bluetooth speaker. And once that becomes available. So in my process, my next step is to take a look at the document. If there is an item in stock and an item out of stock, it's going to go ahead and split that document. And what it does when it splits is it creates a child document from the parent document. As we can see here, 179 was moved to history. Now I have a 0.1 and a 0.2 document. One of those went ahead and forwarded to my ready to pick queue, and the other is now sitting in back order. So if I come back to my sales monitor and do a refresh, I can see that 179.2 in back order. My 179.1 is in ready to pick. So now for back order, you have several different options. I can wait for an existing purchase order. Maybe we're already working on replenishing that item. I can just wait for that to be received and posted and then go ahead and allocate to this order. Or I could generate a purchase order and link it to this document. In this case, maybe I know I have a purchase order out there already. I'm waiting for something that's on order. I don't have to create a purchase order. But then once that inventory becomes available, I want to be able to just automatically forward this document, not have to worry about someone manually checking in to see for those back ordered items that they're now available. So in our automation tool, we're able to set up a job to do exactly that. So I have for Zord this allocate to back order job setup. In a live environment, I would set this to run on an automated schedule. For something like this, I'd perhaps have it run, once or twice a day just to check to see if we have a receipt posted for this item. And if so, go ahead, forward, allocate, send it down to picking. But for other rules, you might want to run it as frequently as every 15 minutes, and you can do that as well. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and run manually. So I'll go ahead and hit run now. And if any of those items that were sitting in my back order queue, which it looks like order 145 based on that pick ticket that was generated, and if I come back and refresh, we should see that leave the back order queue. It looks like the item that was back ordered as part of that order has now become available, and that order has been forwarded along. It's in ready to picking, and that doesn't involve any of my employees manually touching this order at all. Quite similar, but different example of how automation can work in a scenario like that is for a future order. So I'm just going to keep picking on the same customer here. And I'm going to go ahead and add some monitors to this order. So I have some 20-inch monitors here. I'll change the quantity just for fun here to 5. And I'm going to go ahead and change this requested ship date to February. Perhaps this customer knows that they're going to have some new employees starting. They want to get this order out there. Maybe there's been supply chain issues and they just want to make sure that this order's out there and in place. But as the distributor, I don't want to reserve inventory for somebody who's placing an order 2 months, 3 months out. So I want to handle this a little bit differently than my typical order. I don't want to set aside the inventory in the warehouse or reserve it. So I have a rule in my workflow that if something is more than a month out, my rule is 14 days currently set up, that I want to move it to a future queue. I want to not allocate to that order. And then I want to evaluate once we do get within a certain time frame, let's go ahead and do that allocation. So if I go ahead and hit release, it's going to do a similar evaluation. It's going to know that this is a future order. Evaluate is true. I've actually gone ahead and unallocated the inventory. We can see that this is now back ordered and it's now in my future queue. As part of my process, that's exactly where I want it to be. But I can go ahead and look at my future queue and see, okay, there is nothing within that 14-day window in here currently. Let's go ahead and change this order that I already created to time within that frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and change it to the 19th. Go ahead, do a save. That'll roll down to my line items. Now, my automation job, very similar to the back order job, is going to go ahead and look and see and recognize that we're within that 14-day window. Let's go ahead, get this out of the future queue, allocate it, send it down to the warehouse so we can start processing this order. And that time frame might be, more or less depending on your specific product and lead times. But I'll go ahead and run that now. You can see that ran instantly. We got another pick ticket. Got a few of them sitting out here. I'm just going to go ahead and close those. I come back to my sales monitor. 147, no longer in my future queue. It's gone ahead and moved into that ready to pick queue. So without having someone have to keep an eye on that, you can manage a lot of different scenarios with your orders based on date, back order, any status or field or user-defined field that SalesPad allows you to create would allow you to do those types of evaluations. Last is an example, not so much using our automation tool, but just using general workflow rules and evaluations. If I go ahead and create an order for a dropship item that I know I have, maybe we sell koozies, we do laser printing on them, but the manufacturer actually handles that for us. We don't keep this product in stock. It's a dropship item, which if I go ahead and add this column, I can see that this item is stored as a dropship item. So my workflow is going to recognize that when I try to forward this document, and it's going to go through a different process than a normal item might. So if I go ahead, I'm just going to change the quantity to 100. I don't think too many people are going to order one koozie. You also saw a price change initiated. You can build that into SalesPad, of course. At different quantities, you might have price breaks, and same with GP. But can easily see that happening in real time as I change that quantity. So I'm going to go ahead and release the document. My workflow has realized that there's a dropship item on the order. It is telling me to choose vendor and forward. So just an example, if I want to create a dropship PO, I have to know who's going to go ahead and fulfill that order, what manufacturer or vendor I'm working with. If I try to create that dropship PO before identifying a vendor, I'm going to get an error saying missing vendor evaluated is true. This is going to stay in our dropship queue. So let me go ahead and add the column for vendor here. And this will require a little working knowledge of the product. I need to know which vendor provides this item and is set up to sell this. So I know America Charge is one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and go ahead and try and create that dropship PO again. Now we can see that was successful, and this is moved to the ready to invoice queue. It doesn't need to go through our picking process or our shipping process. The purchase order is going to go to the manufacturer. They're going to handle the fulfillment. We're just going to need to send that invoice to the customer and then ultimately pay against that purchase order for our vendor. That was created automatically in the background through a plugin. So if I go to this purchases tab, I can see this purchase order for my quantity of canned koozies. And then I can also utilize a workflow, different rules for my purchase order process as well. I'm not going to jump into that on today's call, but did just want to highlight the creation of that purchase order and that you can utilize a workflow there as well. So now I was able to bypass different parts of my process, different queues, just based on a certain condition being true. So these are just three examples. Obviously, there's so many different things you can do. As long as you have the field or data to make an evaluation, workflow and automation are going to be able to help you automate and make that process more efficient. So I'll go ahead and jump out of the demo now. So just to recap what we were able to solve for in the demo, making sure that there's an appropriate and acceptable margin on every order which is helping to maximize profitability and do that on every order, whether that's a set limit or you want to do that more dynamic evaluation based on multiple conditions. As we saw with the sales monitor, being able to send alerts and emails to our internal team members or external team members, you can see that there's full visibility to every document every step of the way. With the back orders and the future order processing, we saw that automation and execution of business rules that can help you achieve that perfect order every time and do it faster. With the routing, with the email notifications, with the visibility through Sales Monitor and other places in SalesPad, there's clear accountability on all documents, and we can be confident that our team members are going to know when it's their turn to interact or act on a document. Thank you. And with that, I'll hand it over to Stephanie to do a demo for EthoTech.
Thank you, Mike. That was really awesome to see. Thank you. So when we chat with customers about their processes, we find that they have, some inefficiencies that really fall into three main areas. For commissions, they find that figuring out who should get commission for a given commissionable customer or commission line, who's entitled to payment. Also calculating the correct payment amount. Having a long career in both variable compensation and payroll, I get it that you absolutely don't want to mess with people's money. But on the other side, you need to think about your company's position and protect that as well. So we'll cover how the software automates calculating the right amount for different scenarios. And the third one is timing, scheduling the payouts. When do you release the commissions? Monthly, quarterly, when the invoice is posted or invoice isn't paid. Doing that on spreadsheet is super tough. So we'll go through that in the demo as well. So here I am sharing my screen in Dynamics GP. And to start out, I just want to show you how quickly Commission Plan from EthoTech can close the period for you. So in a short time, by just telling Commission Plan what date you want on the commission payment, what type of transaction you want to create and that date, and which documents to include in the run, you can quickly close your period for commission processing. And so in this example, I'm paying out my February commissions for documents only paid in the month of February. Now, best practice is to preview. I'll go ahead and do that quickly. And I can see I have some commissions. The commission amount for this run is $29,000. And then I'll process those commissions. Now, did that seem quick and efficient? But as we all know, the devil's in the details. So let's take a look at the big three: who, how much, and when. Now, just a note for the IT leaning folks on the call, the software installs on top of Dynamics GP with the same look and feel that your users get from using the software. And users are granted access to our windows, and we use a security model like Dynamics GP does. And we already have predefined tasks and roles for you to make your job easier. So now your company right now may only pay commissions to one salesperson per customer, but increasingly companies are including more people in the sales process. And if you're like many, dealing with the commission spreadsheets, that means adding another tab and copying and pasting your sales data as that comes in. But Commission Plan allows you to attach a salesperson to an item, a territory, and a customer. And in this example, I've attached a salesperson to an item. Salesperson, 10,001 will receive a royalty payment each time this item is sold. So think about using that for royalty recipients, authors, inventors, artists, things of that nature. When you attach a salesperson to an item, you don't have to worry about what customer buys the item. It's just the item that makes the difference and allows you to easily pay those royalties to the proper person. Now, you can also attach salespeople to a territory in Dynamics GP. So it operates a little bit differently than how Dynamics GP operates. In this example, I have territory 4 with Francine, Gary, and Ian all getting a commission for different reasons. And we're starting to see the concept of plans coming into play. A salesperson plan, think of that as a rate structure. So they're in the outside salesperson rate structure, a manager and an inside salesperson. But what if you have, people sharing an account? You might have 2 inside salespeople, so they both get paid. So again, you have the ability to make sure that all of the proper salespeople are on the document when it's created. Now, you might also have an item plan restriction. Maybe Ian only sells items in the product line of your tires, or Sandra only sells items in your product line of accessories. In those instances, when territory 4 is used on a document, Sandra will only get paid when accessory items are on the document. Again, Ian will only get paid when tires items are on the document. So again, you don't have to worry about which documents to paste on the spreadsheet for your given salesperson. And the third way you might attach a salesperson would be to the customer. And we get this all the time. In this instance, kind of simple for central communications, I have Aaron and Sandra are both on this document. But again, we'll pick on Ian. Oh, he's an inside salesperson too. But what if you restrict it by address code? You have a company that's nationwide, but in the East, only the East people get it, Central, West, etc. Or if you do it by address code, you certainly can say, Ian only gets paid when primary is used. In this example, Aaron and Sandra get paid all the time. Again, you can restrict by item plan and say, Ian only gets paid when primary address is used for items that are tires. So you can really delineate who appears on a sales document for commission purposes, taking the headache out for it for you. Now, just a note, anytime I say salesperson, it's a salesperson ID in Dynamics GP. So whether it's a physical person, an entity, an author or an inventor, or your distributor, you might set them up as a salesperson ID as well. So how does that exactly make your process more efficient? Let's take a look at a transaction in Dynamics GP and see what's going on. And everybody picks on Aaron Fitz, so I'll go to Central Communications in this example. All right, so here is your transaction in Dynamics GP. If you're using SalesPad, this is the transaction that your team entered there. So under the covers, commission plan is taking care of the commissions for this document. And I can see that all of these different salesperson IDs have appeared on this document for different reasons. Francine is under the outside salesperson plan. Gary's the manager. There's a royalty here. And you can really get a picture of, okay, all of these people deserve some money on this document for some reason. Now, in looking at Ian, Paul, and Sandra, all in the same salesperson plan as inside, you can see that their commission dollars are different. And I would suspect in this example that there's an address or an item restriction that is taking over and explaining why all of their numbers are different. So just remember, because commission plan can put all of the proper salespeople on the document for you, that follows through the whole process. And you don't have to worry about copying and pasting invoice data on your spreadsheets. We've even seen customers before using commission plan entering multiple transactions for a given customer so that they can be sure they get, Ian on the tires and Sandra on the accessories. This will allow your team just to enter one document, and it takes care of the who for a multi-line, multi-business line invoice. All right, so now that the who is answered, let's talk about the what. Does your company pay commission rate for inside versus outside salespeople, or junior and senior account reps? In the commission plan matrix setup, it allows you to define all of those rates for all of those different combinations, and taking it into account the type of salesperson, the type of customer, and the type of item. Now, this example is more complex. Maybe you don't vary the commission rate by the customer. So you might say, the customer plan is standard. And the reason we do it this way is it allows you to kind of take care of your entities, salesperson, customer, and item in bulk. If all of your inside sales reps get paid the same rates, but just for their customers, it keeps you from having to maintain each salesperson separately. Again, same with customers and items. Now, sales managers love the ease of designing a system that really gets you to your company goals. You can have different rates for different items, some with a % of sale, some based on margin. Mike talked a lot about that, and some just a flat amount. It also can handle if you have, say, a new product launch and you want to have a higher commission rate for the first 90 days of that item. Or if you have a new customer and for the first year, the salesperson gets a higher rate and that sunsets to their normal rate after a year. So again, the sales managers love the flexibility they have in giving different entities different commission rates. Now, in this example, my inside salesperson is getting paid 1% of margin, but I can scroll through here and see, there are different plans for different types of salespeople, so they get different rates. All right, so now when we go back and look at that transaction that I almost closed, when we go back and look at that transaction in Dynamics GP, talking again about the different commission dollars for each of these inside sales reps, I'm going to drill down on Paul and see what's going on with him. Now, here is the line detail for the commissions. And so I can see it looks like Paul generally gets 1% of margin. And we understand that commissions are full of exceptions, and we're happy to help with that. Say on this invoice to Central Communications, Paul deserved, 50% of margin. He'll be happy with us. The commission rate and commission dollars to the far right changed, and we updated that right away. And so you are able to make kind of exception overrides on a given document or given document line that'll flow all the way through so that you don't have to kind of remember, did I add that to my spreadsheet? And so now I've updated Paul's commission, and you can see to the right that the manual checkbox is checked. That just lets you know that it was a system generated. It wasn't a system generated commission, that someone who's able to edit commissions did so. And say in this instance, even, Sandra, she didn't work on this deal this time. We can delete her. All of the other transactions for Central Communications in the future, Sandra will be there, but this time, whatever, she just wasn't eligible for commission. Again, all of this stays with the document as it moves through the process and allows you to make sure that all of the right people are on the invoice at the same time. So there's great power in how much part of the software, because not only does it take into account the item, the salesperson, and the customer combination, but if your company has business rules that reduce commissions for terms discounts, trade discount write-off, or credit card usage, which we're seeing a lot lately, and also as the invoices age, the software can automatically reduce commissions for those scenarios. So again, that you're paying the salesperson according to your business rules. So all of those extra, overrides that you use, again, are tough to deal with in a spreadsheet. And so we're happy that can kind of ease your trouble with your spreadsheet. All right, so we've talked about the who and the what. So let's talk about the when. Here in salesperson maintenance, I am using EthoTech's alternate maintenance window. If you prefer the GP window, you're welcome to access our stuff by the additional menu at the top. But what we've allowed you to do is set up salesperson classes, which I'll get to in just a little bit. You can set your salesperson plan here, but you can also dictate what kind of transaction is created. That's a horrible example. Sorry about that. What kind of transaction is created And then also when you release commissions. So when is it appropriate to release commissions? Now, in this example, I'm allowing commissions to be released based on the salesperson ID. We've made it easy for you to do that by setting up the class ID. So if all outside reps get paid when the document is posted and you add a new rep in the outside rep class, we can roll all of that down for you, saving up some time and setup. But in this example, Francine gets paid when the document is posted. I'm creating an unposted Dynamics GP payables transaction going to this vendor ID. Now, if you have distributor reps that you pay and you don't want to pay them individually, the actual person, you could attach, multiple salespeople to the same vendor ID for payables transactions, which means we would cut one check to Burger 001. But it would include the commissions for all of the reps under them. So it really saves your AP team a lot of time. So again, I have some salespeople who get paid when the document is posted, and some only get paid when the document is relieved. And so that's great because you don't have to run your cash receipts report, reconcile it in your spreadsheet, who got paid, what got paid, short paid, etc. The software takes care of that for you. And so when you're processing your commissions at the end of the period, and we'll loop back around to kind of where we started this discussion, when you process the commissions, which is locking the commission record down so it can no longer be picked up again, processing commissions is quite straightforward. You just tell the software what period you want to use. In the earlier example, I used the date document paid, but you have a lot of options telling it what do you want to pick up. And what's nice is that even if you have some salespeople that release commissions when the document is posted, and some salespeople on the document is paid, even on the same SOP document, we take care of that. And so in this example, again, I'm paying my March commissions for all of the documents paid in March, but you could add other restrictions. A lot of people use this for if you pay your royalty recipients yearly, you might set up a salesperson class of royalty recipients and put a wider range in there. Or if your managers only get paid quarterly, you might set up a manager class. So you can really decide who gets paid when in filtering the data. Now, a best practice is to preview your commissions, and there are several different ways to do that. I won't go into all of that today, but when you're previewing your commissions, you're just double checking everything's right. All of the exceptions are taken care of. And then processing the commissions, again, locks down the commission records and automatically creates the purchasing documents for your AP team, so they don't have to do that either. And I'll just pull up a transaction for you so you can see that all of your AP transactions are already created for you. So there's Nancy's commissions for this period. And your normal Dynamics GP process just picks up from there. Whether you pay with checks or EFTs or whatever, just take care of your normal business process and take it from there. So in the span of this call, I've efficiently paid commissions for 2 periods. So just think about, how your process is, and if you could pay out 2 commission periods in under an hour. So I'll let just kind of highlight again what we went over today. Figuring out who gets paid for commissions, sometimes is tough, and especially with all the spreadsheet tabs. But it just allows you to deploy laser focused precision to your payout landscape, gives better visibility to your salespeople, and they feel more comfortable that they're getting paid for what they deserve. Obviously, you think a commission software should be able to calculate the proper rate. Yep, we get that. But also the other business rules of reducing commissions for, write-offs and things like that. The software can take care of that for you. And then timing, hunting and pecking to figure out who gets paid when, and did I release it right or whatever. We certainly can help you with that. So definitely making your process a ton more efficient.
Thank you for that, Stephanie, and thank you, Mike, for your demo as well. We are going to move right into Q&A. We have about 10 minutes remaining. Looks like we already have a few questions, so I'm going to start with you, Stephanie, while your demo is fresh. First question for you is, can the commission amount be calculated on invoices and open orders, or just invoices?
Thanks, Stacy. That's a great question. It's actually a setup option. Really, today I only talked about invoices, but any sales document type in Dynamics GP, you can calculate commissions. And so whether it's a quote, an order, an invoice, you'll be able to see, and a return, of course, you'll be able to see commission data. You can only pay out the commissions for a posted SOP document. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephanie. Mike, gonna jump over to you. So you showed how you split an order based on something being back ordered. Can you do this for different warehouses or ship to locations?
Yeah, those actually are two of the other supported ways that we can do splitting. So I showed splitting through the plugin and workflow. You can also run manually, but even with the workflow plugin, there are different settings in SalesPad that allow you to do that by custom fields, ship to, warehouse, and several other fields.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then, Mike, while we're still on you, this seems like a pretty easy one, I think. Is there a limit on number of queues you can have in a workflow, or a number of rules?
No, there's no hard limit on either. I think obviously you just have to think about what's the appropriate amount to build. And then with those rules, you saw it doing that evaluation during my demo. The more rules it's evaluating on a specific queue, the longer it could take to do that evaluation. But ultimately, no, there's no limit there.
Fantastic. Let's see, Stephanie, for you, what does the report look like when you pay a commission? I would need to see customer and items that are being paid on. Would that be possible to see both?
Oh, absolutely. We have standard reports with our software. You could use Smart List Builder and pre-built objects to use. You could use SSRS. So yeah, how you show the data is really up to you. Typically people show customer and item, so the salespeople can see exactly what items, they're getting paid for. If you have a margin calculation, you might want to show margin on that report. If you don't, you probably don't want to show margin. So it's really up to you, but certainly right out of the box, customer and items, no problem.
Thank you for that. This one's kind of funny, simple, it's the inevitable. Like, what happens if a salesperson leaves? How does the software handle that?
Kind of depends on your business rules, but certainly can be handled. Does the salesperson that leaves, do they get commissions for a certain period of time? Certainly, yep, you can pay those out. Does the new salesperson, take over those dollars? Sure, not a problem. We could put the salesperson on the document and remove the old one using our utilities. Or does nobody get paid? Certainly we can do that as well. So it depends on how you would do it, depends on your business rules, but we can take care of it.
Thank you for that. So this concludes all of our questions at this point. I welcome, if anyone has any questions, let us know. But we thank you very much for joining us. We know your time is very precious, and we appreciate you spending an hour with us here today. Thank you, Mike and Stephanie, for your time in preparing this presentation for everyone. If you'd like to dive deeper into your organization's specific needs, or you have specific questions around EthoTech or SalesPad, let us know. Mike or Stephanie would be glad to coordinate a follow-up call with you. Lastly, when you exit the webinar, we'll have a really, really brief survey about 3 questions. We value your feedback, and once again, thank you for your time and for joining us. We hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.